I'd only seen like 2 months prior as well, like the juvenile one. It was getting like bigger structures and more open water, like forming up. All not shelf. The ground was changing.
Big bombies.
Yeah, big bombies, big slate ledges. And then like we come across this cuttlefish, and I was like playing with it with its finger, and it was like staunching me. Like I was like,
that's the first.
I was like, take it.
That's the first.
I was playing with it. He's like, I haven't got it on.
That's the first time we actually realised that we didn't have my GoPro on me again.
Yeah. So how long have we been under at this point?
Apparently about 10 minutes, maybe just under. And then that's when I seen the white at the start. He come across my right-hand side in front of the kingfish.
So what's the visibility like?
Visibility actually wasn't too bad, was it?
It's clear from the first 10, 12, but it's got that haze.
But no, then I seen the white come up on my right-hand side. He would have been maybe 3 meters, maybe a little bit more off the side of me. And I've never seen one. I was like, no, it's dark in the water. It's like, whatever.
You two should probably get on top of that, eh?
And at that point, we were looking face to face to each other, like Sam and I, and the shark was behind us.
When Alex first grabbed me, like, because I didn't know what was going on, and he's like grabbed me and like turned me around, and as I turned around, it was just like an airplane, like that. Kind of like this, coming past like that.
He would have
slow mo, just like
how close?
He would have been 1.5 meters off the back of us.
He was real close. He
was getting closer and closer as he was.
It was like right there, like just right there. I was like,
right, so
shit, like just everything. I was just like, because it felt like everything just went like. He wasn't showing any aggression. It was just like, what are you guys? He probably thought I was a bear. What are you doing under here?
No offense, Sam. You do carry the Yogi Bear appearance.
I know.
I'm trying to yell out underwater to Sam. I was like, we need to get back to the boat. Like, I can't be under here much longer. Like, this is pretty scary.
This is exciting, fellas. Very good to have you both, and thanks for joining me for the Sharks Cast episode 1 here at Shark Watch, the first ever Shark Watch podcast. Amazing to have you both again, and I mean, we've got an hour, so why don't you two talk a bit about yourselves, and I guess we've got about 10 minutes. We'll have like an agenda, maybe about 10 minutes on just about what you two are up to these days, and what your recreational and leisurely hobbies are out in the water, and some of the other crazy stuff you've gotten into out there. It doesn't just have to be about sharks.
My name's Sam anyway, so I'm Sam Chapman. I'm a boilie by trade. Operator, civil works, whatever. Just got out of FIFO, started my own gig down here back in Adelaide, so that's why I'm back here. Moved back from the west probably just before Christmas, so I could spend the summer here, chase the tuna, chase the crays. Outside of diving and that, played a bit of rugby, kind of giving it up now though.
Yeah, so sorry, when you say you're from the West, are you from Western Australia or West Coast?
No. I'm from Adelaide originally. I moved over there for 2 years. So I was
over to WA.
Bouncing around Western Australia, working and diving all up that coast from Perth to Broome. So that was pretty good, but a couple of years over there. But I'd always come back anyway. I was always coming back here.
Amazing. So, I mean, going down to Western Australia, or going up to Western Australia, I should say, you've got so much more marine life up there. You got dugongs, you got obviously the whale sharks. When you've done your diving up there, what's the comparison when you compare it from Western Australia to South Australia? I mean, me myself, look, I've travelled around most of the country. So I've seen the different waters and how it's just so diverse everywhere you go, and I know that no part of the country is the same. Do you get the same sort of vibe when you're up in Western Australia?
Yeah, it's a different ecosystem, different species. Like maybe Perth and south of WA is kind of similar to South Australia, but even then it's not really. But yeah, as you start heading up north, it starts to change. Your species change, your marine life changes. Yeah, like Exmouth. Done a few trips to Exmouth now, stayed a few weeks there, diving in with banter rays and whale sharks. Just, yeah, and other sharks that we don't get in South Australia, like lemon sharks, tiger sharks.
Reef sharks.
Yeah, reefies.
All sorts.
Yeah, there's a lot more of as well. But to be honest, I probably feel safer in Western Australian waters than South Australia.
Yeah, wow, that's a massive statement considering Western Australia obviously has tiger sharks. Mind you, tiger sharks, very rare that they actually have been involved in incidents here with divers or swimmers or anything. So, yeah, you know, just considering they have so much more marine life up there, you obviously have like bull sharks up there as well. So, yeah, that's amazing that you get that feeling though. What's been your most enjoyable you know, part about being on the water? Like what is the most thrilling experience when you're out there? What keeps drawing you back to being in the water, being around all these different marine species, and putting yourself in an element, I suppose, of risk as well, because it obviously is very risky out there?
Mm.
Ooh. To me, it's just serenity. Just being out there and away from the day-to-day 9 to 5, basically. Like what you can find, what you can explore, you know, sizzling reels, shark encounters.
100%. 100%.
It's a different world under there, so you can block
Absolutely.
it all out pretty good.
And do you find the waters a different color up there? And the visibility's different.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really.
It's a lot clearer than what we've got, though.
I don't know. Yeah, all sorts was pretty clear that day.
Well, I suppose it depends.
Sorry, I was going to say I'd probably find Perth water to be dirtier, especially South Perth. But as you get back along, yeah, I'm talking like Freo Way, like on that South Perth is pretty yuck. But you get out the back, I think it's all similar, but it all changes and it all varies. But up in like Exmouth, you can get like hazy days, and then you get real clear days. It varies from my experience anyway.
Yeah, that's unreal. So you've had so much experience up on the West Coast then. Have you been anywhere else in the world or in the country doing this diving, or?
No, not really. A little bit in Bali. Not much. I was meant to go to Thailand actually and do some dive tickets. I had that teed up for a while, but just kept putting it off.
Amazing.
Had tickets and stuff booked, and actually wasn't allowed to book my flight because I put Sam Chapman down instead of Samuel Chapman, so they wouldn't let me board the flight. So just flushed the tickets down the drain.
Just too much bureaucracy, isn't there? So, Alex, why don't we move on to you? Tell us a bit about yourself and your own journey, you know, diving, and then I guess get into how you two both met and how you two partner together on the water and what that working relationship's like with you two out there.
Yeah, so Alex Ipsen's my name. 33 years old. Always loved the ocean. Always been around the ocean all my life. Ever since I was a young kid, growing up over in Queensland, always chasing like your bread and butter species, your flathead and your bream and the little pink snapper that they get over there as well, and all of that. So did a little bit of, I wouldn't call it diving as such, but more snorkeling around all the Great Barrier Reef and whatnot when I was younger. And then finally moved over to South Australia with the old boy, lived in Roxby for 14, 15 years. Then just been in and out of the mines and whatnot ever since. currently FIFO over to North WA at the moment, but on a national projects team all around the country. So still doing all of that, but Adelaide's my home. Adelaide's where all my friends, most of my family are as well now. So yeah, bought a boat probably, I don't know, 5.5, nearly 6 years ago now, like my first boat. So ever since then, it's been pretty well. Yeah.
Is this the same boat that that we see in those videos off Cape Jaffa?
Nah, so that's Sam's.
my
That's
boat.
Sam's Band-Aid boat.
I was going to say it's a yeah.
So that's a Catalina coaster, but I've got a 6-meter Allison as well. So we've gone out in it a couple of times, but Sam's is a little bit easier, just a little bit bigger for, you know, to have the hooker and the lines and all that sort of stuff in and all that. So, but no, ever since then, I've ever since I can remember, for 9 years, 10 years now, I've worked on Strike One fishing charters while I've been back home through the summer months for the tuna, and while we could catch snapper, I will go out chasing snapper as well. But as everyone knows, there's a ban on until next year. So still working on all the charters to these dates. Still FIFO really, so love everything about the ocean. I'm out every chance that I can get, like looking out the window every morning. Get window trees is good. Let's go fishing. So it's good.
I think my first life memory actually was with my dad fishing on the banks in the Port River. I always said that actually. It was funny. That's where it started from. So
Yeah, you can only get back to Port River.
What a place! I can definitely relate to that. My father and I, we went down to the Port River, and we used to he used to take me to the areas that are now privatised. So part of like the Subcorp area, all of that whole it's called Snapper Point, where you got the bend that goes from the outer harbour to the inner harbour along the channel there. And we used to get the cockles for the bait, for the fish. Yeah, mud cockles. We used to go and bag out, and then we used to go fishing after. So classic childhood memory was on the banks of the Port River there as well. So totally relate to that, and having the ships sort of go through, and then the water sucks in, and then it comes back out, and having the waves chase you in. It's a great memory.
Yeah,
and it's I mean, there's plenty of big fish in the Port River. I know there has been. Rodney Fox actually did a brief sort of video on it, or there's a little report on him saying that there was you two know who Rodney Fox is? Yeah, so he's obviously that legend with the shark attack. And he actually was saying that there was a large white that followed the fish up right into the inner harbour. I've seen a blue shark like very, very far in the inner harbour, like in the Ethelton area. So
yes, I've seen makos in the Port River before. Same as Westbacks as well. That's
incredible. Yeah, I had no idea that there were makos that actually made themselves into the Port River there. So that's incredible. Yeah. So I know
how far a shark can swim, and how, you know, it gets stuck in the currents as well, and goes from there. Really, it's the same as all the sword fit, the swords and that get stuck up and caught in Port Augusta, or seen in Port Augusta nonetheless. All the mahi-mahi that get seen up there every year as well when the kings are running as well. They just get stuck in that, that warm water current.
100%. You do get some big kingies in there as well, some good mulloway, and yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly dirty place. The water's just putrid, but at the same time, it's amazing for fishing in there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't dive.
Yeah, I would dive.
No, not at all. No, I haven't heard it's too good to dive in either. So, but you two. So, how did the whole working relationship come together? How did you two find each other?
I met Sam through another mate, probably 9 years ago, maybe a bit longer. Sam actually called us. My mate was living at North Haven at the time, and he actually called my mate so Sam was fishing up, where was it? Goannas and Param Way sort of thing, and he broke down. So me and another mate went up and towed him all the way back to St Kilda.
That's amazing. So you two, obviously, now that you've gotten to know each other since that incident, do you go out on the water quite regularly together? Do you have like a whole bunch of other mates that you go out with? And
Yeah, we still got a fair few other mates that we still go out with, but recently, over Christmas and the New Year, yeah, every weekend.
We're going to have a little circle.
Yeah, amazing. That's what it's about, eh? Just creating memories out there as well.
Yeah,
Such a sentimental place in its own way, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of trust in each other as well when you think about it.
Oh,
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? It's about the camaraderie that you build up with each other out there. You have to have that trust. It's essential, isn't it?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, all the memories as well last a lifetime. You know, like I don't know about Sam, but I won't remember that. Well, I won't forget that shark for a long time to come.
Yeah.
Till we get another one and actually get some footage of it, which would be good.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I'm always here, ready and waiting, mate, for that footage to come through. So
Those are the myths at the moment.
We're talking today about how we should just go back there and just jump in with cameras and maybe a spear gun.
Yeah, maybe 2.
I'll let you fellas go down there. I'm not tagging along behind. But look, I mean, I know myself what they look like up close. I've done the cage diving in Port Lincoln only a few years ago, 2021.
Yep.
And I was lucky enough to be a volley on the boat there. And in that time, they actually let me go into the cage and watch them up close and personal. And I actually got to again, it's controversial, but I'm going to say it here on the podcast. I was baiting the sharks, right? And very, very heavily debated, as you've probably all seen on the Shark Watch platforms. So, that was an experience that I learned from. And to actually see them as individuals and not just as sharks, you yourselves would understand that it's a totally different, how would you say, like paradigm, if you will, to see them up close than it is to see them behind the camera lens. There's a level of intimacy that you can feel in that moment between the shark and yourself. And I know that I felt that when I was in the cage with them. I had a 4.5 meter one. I was lucky to see a 4.5 meter one. And I always said that the front of them looks like the fuselage of a plane, with that cylindrical shape. And it literally is almost, the same size as a light plane from the front. And when you're looking at them from the back, when they're turning, they're like the size of a minibus. They literally are the size of a minibus. And so when you're in the cage, you're thinking the last thing I would want is to be free diving with them without this cage in this moment. But in saying that, like, there's no fear when you're in that situation because you're protected by the safety of the cage. And I guess as well, you feel like you have the safety of the operators behind you.
Yeah.
But, you yourselves, you were actually safety barrier. And did I cut out there for a moment?
For a second you did, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Which is typical. Of course, right when I'm getting So you yourselves, you didn't have that safety barrier. And you were relying on, I guess, faith in that moment, to get you through whatever, circumstances you were going through. And I guess, just run us through that whole encounter. Like, run us through the day, what you were expecting and what obviously you weren't expecting to unfold, and how you felt when everything, started to come to pass. What were the thoughts coming through your mind? And also what I'd like to know, as someone who's growing in, integrity running Shark Watch, is I want to know a lot about these encounters in terms of, what the water visibility was like, what the weather conditions were like, just factors that might have been contributing to the fact that you saw the shark and the shark was behaving in the way that it was. And obviously it's completely normal behavior for a white pointer to circle people, we've got to remember they're top apex predators. So, I'll leave you the floor now to go through the whole experience.
So that was, so the start of the day, we went down pretty well the night prior. Got down there a lot later, or a lot earlier in the morning than what we actually wanted to. Got a couple of hours sleep. Went well on the water by 7.
This is
roughly.
common practice for us to
Yeah,
go up there late night and
Nothing's
sleep
ever on
4
time.
hours, 5 hours, and just get in the boat.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
we launched about 7 or 7:15 in the morning. Went out to a couple of areas where we were going to dive, and we jumped in just for a free dive while the hooker was all getting sorted out and lines were getting run out and so forth. Then we just jumped on the hooker, went down, and we were finding plenty of crayfish. Like, I've never personally caught a crayfish with my hands apart from that trip, so I was pretty chuffed about just being able to get them with my hands as well.
So this was like Alex's, I think, the third dive with me.
Third proper dive for crayfish. So,
and I'd always been at these grounds for a little bit. But yeah, my mate, one of our other mates got me into it. But Alex was pretty fresh to the whole diving scene. So it was like getting his first crayfish trip. That's what it was.
Yeah, well, first proper crayfish trip. So the weekend prior, we went to Emu Bay over Cape Jaffa Island, launched from Jervis, and had a bit of a practice and missed a couple of crayfish over there, but we still got one for a feed, so cooked that up on the beach. But the water visibility was actually pretty decent. We were in, I think we started in 8 meters roughly, I think.
Yeah, 7 or 9.
The vis wasn't too bad. Like, you couldn't see the bottom crystal clear, like, far north Queensland and whatnot, but you'd get down halfway and you could see everything. You could probably see for, I don't know, maybe 10 meters, if that.
So how deep were you and how far offshore roughly were you at the time?
With a shark encounter or this first dive I'm talking about?
So just the first dive, I guess.
First dive we started in 7 or 8.
Yeah. And we're probably maybe 8 to 10 Ks offshore, roughly.
So do you two, when you're out doing this, do you have a shark shield?
No.
Wow, man.
I'd
Wow.
only seen one 2 months prior as well, a juvenile one.
Same area, though.
Same area.
Are you going to invest in a shark shield?
Probably not.
My mate rang me and said, I've got a shark shield you can borrow. And I was like, yeah. But I've heard shark shields attract them as well.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
Just the pulses and...
Yeah, right, okay. They're the only proven deterrent that's been tested at the Neptune Islands.
Yeah, I don't think we're diving there, but...
No, we've thought about it. But...
Yeah, well, they done experiments on it, and if you see the footage, it's pretty crazy because the sharks are actually vertically going in predation mode, and at the last second they turn away. It's like something just punches them. So it is effective in that way, but I'm not here to market shark shield in any way. So
I don't know about like whether I've got a shark shield or a solid shield like they do with the ab divers off Neptune Island and that. Whether I'd say it or not, I don't think I'd still be too keen to play around with it or to test that theory, so to speak.
Yeah.
To me, it's just another, I don't know, it's just the same as they put I think you can get sinkers these days for when you're fishing really sharky areas, then you can get your fish up rather than the shark takes your catch. So it's just another theory that I don't really want to prove.
They issue our own, you know what I mean? If you, it's, that's your decision. And hey, who's to say, when it's your time, it's your time. But I guess run us through as well, as the day unfolded. So you've got your first and second dives in and you've gone to your next spot.
Yes. We nearly bagged out all of our crayfish. So it's, 8 per boat limit. So we nearly bagged out on that. And we only needed a couple more, upsizing a couple of them, taking them out of the live well. And then we dove on this last spot. I think we had 2 dives on this other spot.
Yeah, I jumped down. I think it was it deeper? I think it was 10.
It was about 10 to 12
It was 10
meters
where we were, but I did a free dive, went down the bottom, had a bit of a scout around, and I was like, yeah, this is good. Shot back up. I was like, yeah, we'll jump in here. And then
jumped on the hooker and
we went down and we were finding some good ground, and I was pretty happy with it.
And some big crays.
Some big crays.
Big ledges as well.
It was a nice pressing 4 kilo cray, and I was like, I'll give Alex a shot at it.
Yeah, missed it.
Missed it.
Sam had to go at it later on in the day and missed that as well. Later on in that day, but yeah, so it was about it would have been about 10, maybe just that little bit deeper.
Yeah, as we were going around, because we were swimming out, I think it would have got to 12, maybe 15.
Yeah,
so
maybe 15.
It was getting like bigger structures and more open water, like forming up. All not off a shelf. The ground was changing.
Big bombies.
Yeah,
Big bombies,
like,
big slate ledges, and
Yeah.
So Sam tried to get this big, roughly 4 kilo crate, if not bigger. After I missed it earlier, his whole body was in underneath this ledge, like tucked up underneath this ledge, and I was holding onto his leg, and I was halfway in this ledge as well. Just goes to show that there's some big ledges in there. So still missed the fish, but yeah, so we had what we have. I think I had 1 crayfish in my arm. Sam had 2.
ended up getting a couple others, and I was holding on to 3, and I was letting Alex swim around trying to find the big monster to get, on the first dive.
So,
and then like we come across this cuttlefish, and I was like, playing with it with its finger, and it was like staunching me, like, and I was like,
that's the first. I
was like, take it.
That's the
first.
First
like this, and I was playing with it, and he's like, I haven't got it on me.
That's the first time we actually realised that I didn't have my GoPro on me again.
It was pretty cool though. This cuttlefish was like, it was like
full sucking us out, like coming facing out of this crack while there's a crayfish behind it that we wanted to get. So, but yeah, so then we seen a little school of kingfish, I don't know, maybe a metre, maybe just over a metre, just swimming around. So I went under a ledge to try to get another crayfish and miss that. So I come out of that particular ledge. Sam went in to have a look at one as well.
We're on the top of the peak of the rocks. And you
were afterwards, but you were underneath the ledge when I seen the white. So
how long have we been under at this point?
Apparently about 10 minutes, maybe just under at this point. So
good scout.
All up, it was around about half an hour from what we were told that we were in there. It was the longest dive that we did all day.
That is a good scout, considering you had 3 crays you were hanging on to.
Yeah, I had 3.
So I drove here.
We had our
bags.
Crayfish at that point. We already had our bag limit. We were just upsizing some crayfish at that point. So, but yeah, I swam out over the top of this one bommy that Sam and myself were in, and it was like a little ravine, I guess you could call it, to another bommy. And as I swam down through that, looking around, I was seeing the kingfish again. So I slowly started swimming over there, and we've got, I don't know, 15 metres between us, between the hooker that we can actually move around, sort of thing. And then that's when I seen the white at the start, and he come across my right-hand side in front of the kingfish.
So what's the visibility like?
The visibility actually wasn't too bad, was it?
It's clear for the first 10, 12, but it's got that haze.
Yeah.
I'd say in that first 6 to 7, it's pretty clear, but it's got that dark haze in the back.
Oh.
Not like, not real clear, but it's clear enough. We could see really good.
We could see pretty well, yeah.
So you could see each other 15 metres away?
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
We could see the bubble trail.
I could see the line. Like when we're scouting around, I just see the line and see the bubbles. Or
sure.
Yeah.
So we've got it from one hose off to a T-piece. So then
it's not like us doing it together next to each other like this the whole time either. No. Like we were just losing each other and coming back to each other.
Yeah. As
trying to get into a crevice, and one of us are pulling the other hose so then they can go that way. And it was. Yeah, but it's good. Like it's almost like a safety feature as well. So like that you are in that same area as well. Like you're not too far away if something like this was to happen.
Sure, absolutely.
But no, then I seen the white come up on my right hand side. He would have been maybe 3 meters, maybe a little bit more off the side of me. And I've never seen one. I've always wanted to swim with a white. I'd love to. And so I freaked out. Like shit.
At least you're honest, man.
Should have pretty quick, and sorry about that. Went back and tried to signal to Sam. I was like, "There's a shark in the water." He's just like, "I can't get the crayfish." I was like, "No, there's a shark in the water." He's like, "Whatever."
You two should probably get on top of that, eh?
And at that point, we were looking face to face to each other, like Sam and I, and the shark was behind us.
Behind me, coming over the top of my shoulder.
I turned his head around. I was just like, the shark is like, poof. So 3 crayfish that he had in his arms went back into the crevices pretty quick.
I held on to him for a bit.
Yeah, we held
on what do we do with these?
So we, you did actually hold on to him for a little bit.
I ended up throwing him at the shark. Then
Sam signalled me. It felt like an eternity, but it was probably only a minute after we seen the shark. We backed ourselves into this little cave that had like a little 0.5 metre overhang on the top, so we couldn't come from the top, and he couldn't come from behind us. So Sam and I were both facing out each way to see where he was, and the shark was just all big circles out in front of us.
So we were on the bommy itself. We were like on top of the pinnacle in a slate, like in like, yeah, I'd say where we seen it, we were actually protected, like enough. Like we had big protection behind us and in front of a boulder, and like we were sat down in the ledge, you know, and I was just out watching it. But when Alex first grabbed me, like, because I didn't know what was going on, and he's like grabbed me and like turned me around, and as I turned around, it was just like, it's like an airplane like that. Just goes like this, coming past like that.
He would have just
slow mo, just like
how close?
He would have been 1.5 meters off the back of us.
He was real close. He
was getting closer and closer as he was.
He was like right. It was like right there, like just right there. I was like so yeah, shit, like just everything stopped. I was just like, because it felt like everything just went like, oh, but what? Like, what is this?
Real way.
And it kind of just come up, and as it come past, it got sight onto me, and like it seen as a freaking eye, and it was just like staring to a machine, and it's just like, oh Lord. And then it's just like it went up with the bubbles and like did a pirouette in the bubble trail.
Yeah, circle.
And I looked at Alex, and Alex is looking at me. I think our eyes were just like this in the glasses.
I still remember though that we were still underneath this one boulder. We were there for a little bit, just wasn't really sure what to do at that point. We both had our little knives out. I looked at mine, I looked at the shark.
Watching the shark's behaviour more than it. I was just watching what the shark was doing. He was just like coming back, you know.
Was it slow passes? Was it slow and was so
fast to get back around to have a slow pass. Yeah. He wasn't showing any aggression. It was just like, what are you guys? He probably thought I was a bear.
What
are you doing under here?
No offense, Sam. You do carry the Yogi Bear appearance. I'm not gonna lie.
So yeah, it was pretty wild. But I still remember we were sitting under that ledge, and Sam's looking at me. I've looked at my knife. It's only a little dive knife. It's yay big. I looked at my knife. I looked at the shark. I'm just like, put that away. It's not going to do anything. Sam's still got his.
I had my knife out, but it's funny. Like I always think now, like outside of the water, I'm like, yeah, shark, like straight eye, like attack the eye is what I would do. In the water, I was just in absolute awe looking at this thing. I was just still, I wasn't even there. I wasn't underwater. I was flown. I was away. I was in fairyland just watching Nat Geo in real life. Like,
so you got caught up then. Would you say you two both sort of got caught up in this like euphoric sort of like trance? Where it's like, and even the animal in itself is just like, like what are you two, you know? And that's awesome, man.
It was very surreal watching him, like as Sam's saying, like he was very slowly to come past us.
He was having like
but he was quick to get back around to do that pass again, if that makes sense.
Big eyeball, and he was looking up and down. I could see his eye like changing direction, and
big black eyes.
I just remember being like, after the second pass, like then it's like kind of like I'm just like back in my body, and I'm just like, just the not overwhelming. Well, I'd say well overwhelming, but like the feeling of doom and like shit. You're like, if you muck up, like this could be your life. Like, and it was just like, it's like my body didn't let me freak out. My mind didn't let me freak out. I was like in very control of myself when I shouldn't have been.
And it was good in that sense as well. Like Sam's done a lot more diving than me. And then, you know, first proper time down the southeast diving for me with, you know, all these crayfish and that, it was very surreal. So like I'm breathing a lot heavier. Like I'm trying to stay calm. Like, you know, I'm just digging myself into these caves. I was physically laying down in a very small cave for a little period of time, thinking this shark's not going to get me, but then I've got to get out of here somehow. But then I remember sitting there and I'm trying to yell out underwater to Sam. I was like, we need to get back to the boat. Like, I can't be under here much longer. Like, this is pretty scary.
Yeah.
And then Sam's just like, just calm down. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So then
understandably, yeah.
A lot of this under the water, like, and I'm like, it's all like trying to make it feel better.
Trying to make himself feel better at the same time, saying it's small. I'm like, yeah, I don't care if it's big or small. Like, it's
a what?
It's still an apex predator, you know, a meter off of us at any given time. So then we slowly moved out of that.
I did have a little like I did have a little like on the third or fourth pass. It was doing the same line. I come out as it got like 90 on me. Its teeth were. It was before me. I like come out off the rocks.
I charged it.
I charged it a little bit.
This is the moment where you said you charged it, and it didn't even.
And I went out off it and kicked a couple kicks at it.
He would have been about 2 meters off the.
And I was just like in the open, out from the safety, and I just kind of like, felt sick, like it just didn't even budge. It was just like looked back at me a little bit and just kept swimming forward, like didn't change anything. It just didn't care. It just knew it was the king. Like,
he got back to the rock pretty quick, put it that way.
I was like, maybe that action had something to do with how it acted after. I don't think so, but I just knew I had to not show that I was brave or scared.
Everything that we've ever seen is like, you know, if you see a shark, whether it's whites or tigers or bullies or whatever, like you've just got to bully them. And sometimes it works, I guess, depending on how active they are. Sometimes it's not. Like, I watched a YouTube thing today and it was, you know, bullying the shark, but the shark just mauled him, basically. Like, I think every shark's different in that sort of aspect. They're not all going to behave the same.
I've seen, I totally get where you're coming from. I have seen there was an incident in Egypt where a guy was mauled by a tiger and someone killed it, and it's absolutely horrific. Yeah. And a lot of people will know the other event that took place in Sydney recently, and you know the whole. It kind of makes sense when you say that, because it's like they're an apex predator. They don't muck around. Like, they don't have these little, well, you know, who am I to say? They don't have like, you know, it's life or death. They're not operating in like a comforted society where they get fed, you know, they go to the shops and they, you know, they're an apex predator. So they've got the instincts of an apex predator. And so, you know, when it would make sense that when we're out in their environment and we're coming face to face with them, that we actually have to take authority and show that we are, you know, while we're not the dominant species in that domain, we can at least, you know what I mean, we're at least a threat to them.
Yeah.
And
I didn't feel like I was a threat to it at all.
I tried to and regretted my decision, but
and not even,
and their attitude can change like that, I guess, as well. Like, you know, it could be circling us 1 minute looking like it was, you know, but then all of a sudden you could have anything in the water, or you could kick around a bit more and it could just charge you.
100%.
But yeah, what happened after that? We slowly making our way.
Signaling to Alex like the airline, like we need to find the airline and follow the airline back to the boat.
Meanwhile, there's 60 meters of it out in the water.
I think we went from the location we were with the first encounter, and it's would have buzzed around us maybe for 5 minutes, and I was trying to think of shit. You need to do something here, like.
Yeah,
and even if it is not doing anything, I knew that where I was sitting, I was relatively safe because from where we were, like there was just enough coverage that we could even duck in under.
Yeah, we could have got in.
Wouldn't have been able to get to us, but I was like, the hooker was playing up a little bit, and we were testing it out like prior to this dive, and
lucky
it was cutting out a little bit, and we had to keep coming up and playing with it. And like, luckily on this one, it held on the whole time, because I feel like if one of us had to rush to the surface,
we're in that deep of water, we had to sit there and do.
It could have been a different story, but it didn't. Anyway, I kept eyeballing the line, and we followed it out like to the next spot, and then the shark did another wider lap of us, and like we watched it, and as it went back in the direction, I said like keep moving. Moved to like another set of rocks, and it come back for like one lap. He was still having a look, but he didn't come the first few laps of distance of like 1.5 meters.
He did on the first one, because I was down in the crevice when I was acting like a crayfish, not being able.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like the third set of rocks we're at.
Oh yeah.
But as we slowly followed the line out, we realised the line had gone out and then looped back onto another direction. So we'd followed it out all the way out of further from the boat. And then I was like, kept following it around, and I'd last seen of the shark was he'd just come in like he did always, but not probably from 5 meters or something like that, and just did a side broadside, and then like I just remember seeing that big tail just do like the big slow-mos in the distance, and that was the last I've seen of it. But we were just, now as we left them rocks, we were in
familiar ground, but
open water, like there wasn't big bombies or anything. I was just like hugging the floor,
and it was just like, as you might have seen in the videos of my GoPro footage that I did get, it was just like really long weed ribbons all the way up near the surface. That was the only coverage that we possibly had. Like we found that we were in some sort of common ground, and that's when we sort of sat on the bottom for a few minutes just to see if the shark was coming back before we made a slow descend, or inscend, I guess, back to the surface. And because we knew we were roughly near the boat, but we couldn't quite see where our hooker line was at that point, because it was everywhere at that point. So
it's starting to get a bit overwhelming, half an hour in the water as well.
Yeah, so we just wanted to sort of get out of the water and, be somewhere that wasn't with an apex predator. But yeah, pretty well both of us grabbed our knives out. Not that they'd do much anyway, but gives you some sort of safety, I guess, as well, or thoughts of safety. Pretty well just linked arms. Sam's looking one way, I'm looking the other way, and slowly come up.
Yeah. There's a lot of look over your shoulders, I'm looking over this way, and then just up the
come, and we were probably 6-7 meters off the back of the boat by that stage, and
we've seen that video where we were.
We liked it. We weren't.
So I guess the adrenaline, did you feel like the adrenaline was starting to wear off over time, and you were starting to feel the exposure to the elements, the cold water?
I felt like, I reckon the adrenaline wore off quite a bit, because halfway back, my legs were cramped up, because we'd been in the water all day at this point. My legs were starting to cramp up as well. I was busting to go to the toilet. I'm like, yeah, we need to get out of here. And that's like, as we were swimming back, I was just like, yeah, my legs were starting to cramp up. So I think the adrenaline definitely wore off. But as we were swimming away from the last time we seen the shark, I didn't even really worry about where the shark was to some degree. Like, I was more focused on trying to get back to the safety of the boat as well.
100%. 100%. That's amazing. So that footage that we see on 9 News, was that taken on the same day, or was that just
that was the footage?
That was
my other mate,
when you were resurfacing.
My other mate Alex was like, because he was just watching our bubbles all the time. So I knew when you were coming up, because we had a little buoy bubble that holds us. We can pull it down, but it holds the lines out of the way of the ribbon weed and doesn't get caught and stuff. So he'd see the buoy come up and be like, oh, they're coming up. and he'd whip his phone out and start recording.
Just so we can get some
Oh,
crayfish and so
crayfish
forth.
or
So
whatever.
we got a couple, but in this instance, it was me yelling out shark and Sam halfway to the boat already.
so was he? He was completely unaware that all of this had
I
taken.
had no idea.
He thought we were having the best dive ever
Yeah.
because we were down there for so long.
Because he's like, yeah, you've been down there for so long, like it's been a good half an hour, like you.
Wow.
And we come up with no crayfish, and we got back to the boat pretty quick.
Because you two have been sub-communication underwater.
Yeah.
You haven't been able to verbally express how you felt. So
No.
when you come
Everything's
up, just
hands, yeah.
As soon as we got in the boat, we were both shaking quite a bit. Like we didn't do anything. We literally packed the hooker up, well, sat down, had a drink, had a vape or whatever, and packed the boat up, and we headed to the boat ramp. We weren't sticking around
A
at
few
all.
good breaths of fresh air,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
So it was an eye-opening experience. Went to the pub and calmed the nerves down a little bit with a few drinks, and before we drove home.
that's amazing.
So
Wow. Well, I'm blown away by listening to all of that. It's thrilling listening to it. Just to hear the details, thank you so much for sharing all of that in such, you know what I mean, with so much insight. That's incredible. That honestly is incredible. So since then, like, are you planning to go out on the water anytime soon? Are you ready to get back in? Is there anything that you would do differently next time? Are you both?
I went the next day,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
So I was working on
Okay.
I was working on the charter the next day when Nine News first contacted to do do a bit of a chat about it and whatnot. So I couldn't make it for the interview with them because I was out down at Victor chasing tuna. Sam was getting the boat ready and he was literally going out Metro and doing the same thing again.
So Nine News contacted me and they wanted further details about you, Sam. You copped it on the socials on Shark Watch, and I think we can definitely confirm by this podcast that you do have balls. So
I love
out the
that.
day after. So
Some people will just, I don't, it's not the, oh my God, there's a shark in the water. I'm just like, what is the experience, man? It's a tale to be told. It's not, but then I'll see the people making these comments and I'm just really not offended anyway.
No, it's always going to happen. Doesn't matter if it's criticism or not. Like social media, like there's always a Karen out there, saying that you shouldn't be swimming in the ocean. Like there was one that said it to me on one of the pages. They're like, you shouldn't be swimming in the ocean. Like you wouldn't see me swimming in there, rah rah. And I was like, do you go outside to your backyard?
Talking about sharks in supermarkets.
You've got spiders, snakes, everything else out there. It's no different. Like so, it just comes with how much you're comfortable with it, I guess. Like some people don't want to swim with them. Some people would love to.
Yeah. I had a friend always saying, I want to swim with a white. She always mentioned it. Flat stick, done every other shark in the sea. The first thing I did was message her. I was like, I just went with a white shark. So she was
incredible, man. Yeah.
Right. Don't get me wrong. I'd probably want to do it again, but yeah, the GoPro would definitely have full battery. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make sure you're thinking of me, mate. When you go out and you dive, if you bring me the footage, mate, it goes viral. We all love seeing it. And
I'll have a GoPro on my head and I'll have it in my hands as well.
That's it. That's it, mate. Just stay safe. And I guess the hypocrisy comes with it. I've dealt with it firsthand, like you were saying, Sam. That whole list of comments. A shark in the water. Who would have thought? If I had a list of all the different standard responses I get every single report, it's those responses, and it does. I'm not even fazed by it. I mean, at least hundreds of times I've received those comments, and that's the hypocrisy. And I understand that running Shark Watch, I always had the idea that it was going to blow up, and I also had the understanding that when it was going to blow up, that there's going to come adversity with so many followers. So
I do highly believe that the government parties around Australia should be at least trying to allocate more, like sat tags and so forth like that. So I was talking to a mate, they go shark fishing quite a bit recently, and they're getting 90% whites. Like they haven't been getting too many bronzies, they haven't been getting too many of anything. So I think satellite tagging should be put on the table a bit more than what it actually is, just so then we know roughly their patterns, different sort of things with movements and so forth.
Be nice to know where the bigger ones are.
Yeah, so there's a doco on Netflix that's just recently been put up there. It's all about South Australia's great white sharks, what sort of patterns they move on, and all that sort of stuff, all from Neptunes, and it's showing a lot of them are coming from the bite sort of area and it's going to Neptunes, but I don't know whether they're dominant sharks at Neptunes, and all these other whites are slowly making their way further east towards, our Gulfs, Kangaroo Island, and all that sort of stuff, and finding a basically home up there. So that's a pretty interesting doco to watch over as well.
100%. Yeah, if you'd be able to send me the name of that, if you know the name of it, I'll have, it'd be great to look into, and yeah, I mean, they do call, South Australia as, the truck stop of the shark highway, if you will. Because of the fact that obviously it's between Western Australia and the eastern states. Investigator Strait as well, they pass through the area there. Look, I'm 100% on board with what you're saying with the satellite tagging. I think it's a no-brainer, really. If you have the technology, I think there's no reason why it shouldn't be publicized. If you're worried about, you can't really worry about people fishing for great whites because they're a protected species, so they're not going to be invaded. When it comes to fear mongering and things of that nature, this is where we need to have a strategy of education to help people understand that now we have satellite tags in place, you're going to see more sharks. It's the exact same reason why people freak out when they see a summer full of shark sightings on Sharkwatch. It's like, well, that plane circling. Exactly right. More surveillance.
More down at the jetties, more fishing, nicer days at the beach that are flatter. Of course you're going to see
100%.
How long's your page been running for?
11 years.
I've been watching for 4 years.
Yeah. So the story of Sharkwatch, and it's been around. I started it 11 years ago, and it took a year for it to actually, before I got my first viral post, which was a great white in Port Augusta near the power station there. And that was in 2015. And when that first viral post came through, that's when the momentum started going and people started sending in the sightings. And that's what it is as well. I totally get, if people feel like the page is fear-mongering, or if they feel like it's creating this unnecessary hype, I totally get it. As a bystander, if I was looking on Sharkwatch, I would be looking at it myself and thinking, like, I've grown up 28 years in this state, and I've never, and there's always been the helicopter circling. Now we've got a social media profile, and it's getting 100,000 views of a helicopter circling, and people are going mad.
Yeah.
And so I get it. But this is where, having education there and educating people and letting them know that this is why the trend is the way it is.
Yes.
That's why we're seeing these violent sways in movement, because anything to do with sharks, everyone loves, like everyone froths on it, I remember the first time I found out that there were sharks at Grange and Henley when I found the Purser sightings log 15 years ago or so. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, I had no idea that there were sharks at Henley and Grange because it wasn't publicized on the media. You know what I mean? Maybe every now and then they would say, there's a shark 5 Ks offshore, but to see it beaching itself, see a great white at Semaphore Jetty, it's mind-blowing, mind-blowing to people. So
yeah, we've had plenty of them over the years. Before we bought boats, shark fishing off all the jetties, and you just bring in. I've never caught a white, but I've caught some, 11, 12-foot bronzies before off the jetties, and even they're still big creatures. But if it was a bronzy in the water, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I wouldn't even really bat them, and I would have been like, oh, cool, and been into it a bit more. But this, that number one on the pyramid of predators in the ocean,
different.
Pulled my brain out of my head and threw it somewhere.
Landed straight under one of them rocks.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I totally understand what you're saying, Alex. I mean, I've done the barrier reef dive, and I was going back to the boat, and when I turned around, the first time I hadn't been with a shark without a cage was when I turned back towards the boat, and there were three black tip reef sharks coming directly at me.
Yeah.
And then I just froze and I went into that trance because there was nothing I could do. I was in a bombing sort of area. And so I just sat there just watching them, and I was in complete peace. And they just, as they got closer, they parted ways, and then one swam under me and two of them were just beside me. And you just watch them and they're just at peace. And black tip reef sharks have the same reputation as bronzies. In terms of if you look at the international shark attack file, the amount of incidents they've had, I think they're up there with the bronzy. But that's not me advocating people to go and swim with bronzies, because they can be dangerous. But that was just the experience that I shared. So I do know what you mean. I think the problem with bronzies is they grow up to 3.5 meters. The females will come to like Range and Henley and Brighton, and they'll come right up to the shoreline where, like younger kids are. And if they're feeding, they can be dangerous, So, we just take that precautionary measure.
You got to be aware of it if you go in the ocean anyway. Like, you can't sit there and go in the ocean and not think there's sharks in there, like.
100%. I think there's like a legal agreement that you subconsciously sign as soon as you get into the water. I think that's a no-brainer.
I always say to like all of my mates as well, like what if you see a white pointer? I've always said it, like if I got killed and minced by a white pointer, it'd be better than me dying in a hospital bed from cancer or something like that. And I'd always said that. But when I seen the shark, I was like, come on, man, I got 10 years or something.
They could have changed quickly as well. Like, we were talking about it only the other day after it happened as well. Like, could have been a different scenario that if one of us did actually get attacked by it, that other person's, witnessing all of that, probably, scarring them for quite a many years.
And what are you going to do?
And what are you going to do about it as well? Are you going to charge the shark and try to get your friend out, or, how do you go about that sort of situation as well? Like,
you'd be right.
You don't pay until you're in those circles. Yeah. I hope this is not a film before any of you, God forbid, get into that predicament, So, I encourage you both to, while I like the footage, I like getting the footage and being able to share your story, of course, just stay safe out there, do your best to take those measures the best that you can,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the hooker as well, I think it's illegal to dive with a spear gun.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know why.
I know you're not allowed to.
I haven't looked into it. I don't know. Maybe you can take it down with you. I don't know.
I don't see why you can't take it down with you, but I know that you can't shoot fish on the hooker, like while you're with either
on air,
basically. Yeah.
But that would have made me feel a lot more comfortable having a spear gun under there. But
they were in the boat though.
Like, we're not gonna not get back in the water, so you probably see something at some stage down the line.
Man, I just hope it's not anything to do with you two getting involved in too much of a serious incident. Put it that way, I'd be devastated. So,
but like, if it did happen, and like, you subconsciously sign that, and the risks.
That's right. That's right.
That's why so many people blowing up. Like, do you know? Like, just stop. Like, we know there's sharks in the water.
Yeah. That's the thing, though. Like, people don't realise where their seafood comes from either. Like, tuna pens. People are diving in them every single day to patch them up to get the sharks out. You've got ab divers over the west coast of SA, over Neptune Island and further over.
Cray divers on hookers.
Cray divers on hookers. Whether it's North Queensland, down here at the southeast as well, there's a fair few down there. Like, people don't realise that, people are putting their lives on the line to give you that crayfish or to give you that, bit of flake or whatever the seafood might be. So I think that's where people just need to wake up a little bit as well and just come to the realisation that if you want to eat it, there's risks involved.
yeah, like stop being fueled by emotion and use logic behind your argument. That's the biggest thing, isn't
The
it?
same as anything. Like your cows, your horse, well, not your horses, but you know, your cows, your sheep,
your horses,
and all that sort of stuff. Like, how do they think it gets on your plate? Like, they put a bullet or whatever in their head. Like,
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah, just because we can't physically see that, where we just buy it from the shops. You know, we don't understand the process it goes through. Where even
correct.
Yeah. So, do you guys like final words from you two? Like, what is there anything more you want to add to this conversation? Do you want to ask me anything about Shark Watch? Do you want to, you know, have a say about what's going on, you know, with the government and how they're handling shark sightings?
Oh, they're not handling anything, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
We hear I hear reports from people who do the helicopters, like word of mouth, that there's so many more out there that we don't hear about, like behind the scenes of them Westpac helicopters and whatnot. But yeah, I think everyone deserves to know, and if they don't want to know,
don't read about it.
Yeah, just yeah, I know. I want to know about it. So like,
I'd love to know, have more of like a study of, you know, like we've got with like your marlin and your game fishing sort of side of it. Like we can see where all these fish are going in different times of the year. Like I'd love to sit there and they'd be able to, you know, sit there and be like, this is their sort of trajectory, this is their patterns. You know, these are the sort of sharks that are sitting around that sort of area, like the ones at Neptune's and so forth. I think that'd be pretty good to be able to sit there and have that information provided for not only ourselves but for everyone else that's interested.
I'm on board with that. You know, with what I've done with Shark Watch over the years, I've been able to sort of correlate public sightings, but that's not, you can't really go off that. It's not really substantiated evidence, you know. It's just, it's very it's a very simple means of correlating anything, because you're just going by public observations. It's not a reliable method of doing it.
Yeah.
But, you know, like the bronzies, you know, you see that there's a couple of days in the first week of around November where you'll have months where they haven't been seen since like February or March, sometimes January. They'll just go, and you won't see them reported anymore. And then all of a sudden there'll be a day in November. It seems to be like sort of mid to late November. You'll get one weekend and all of a sudden, bang, they're everywhere. And they hang around and they congregate, you know, Henley Beach, Grange. Sometimes there might be a couple in Semaphore, Largs Bay, Selix or Dinga, and they'll just circle around the area for months at a time.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have the hammerhead. That'll come around sort of March and April. You start getting sightings of hammerheads around the coast. You know, they're chillers. You know, they're very shy, very docile. You know?
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun to swim with.
Absolutely. And it's like, but it's like the whites.
At least you know he can't eat you because his mouth's tiny.
Yeah, that's it.
He'd give you a good crack on the head, but I reckon.
good hammer punch. That's it. Yeah, but it's like the whites. They're just so unpredictable. You never know where they're going to be. You never know who's going to see them, and you just don't know what the report's going to be. You know, if it's going to be, God forbid, you know, fatality. So, yeah, I definitely agree with. What's that? Sorry.
Been a couple of fatalities from sharks over the west coast already this year, isn't there?
It started with that.
There was two of them.
That surf.
There was one surfer and there was another fisherman or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Lance Appleby was unfortunately killed on the 2nd, and I'm not sure about the other one. Maybe last year there was a whole string, or there was a spate of incidents.
Yeah,
around from October.
Yeah, late last year. That's the wreck one. Yeah,
and it's just unfortunate that the attacks that have the incidents that have taken place in South Australia, you know, people don't like me using the word attack as well. You know, there's a lot of these words that I have to sort of go around, but it's unfortunate that the style of incidents that have happened here in SA, the fatalities, have been predation-like kills, where we haven't the authorities haven't been able to find the body after, right? So, you know, you hear of so many different stories of whites just taking one bite and they bleed out. For whatever the reason, unfortunately, in South Australia, not that I'm saying it's a South Australian thing, but the past few incidents involving whites, they haven't been able to find the victim's body. So obviously it's been a predation, brutal predation-like style, almost like a shark would typically go at a seal. And we know that surfers look like seals on the surface. So it's just tragic. It's honestly tragic the way that the fatalities have occurred in South Australia, because they have definitely come across as genuine attacks. They're not bites, you know, they are full rampant predations, you know. And, you know, whether or not that's a testament of sharks, great whites, and how they behave in South Australia and what they're here for, I don't quite know. I'm not saying they're here to kill people. I'm saying that they could be here specifically, primarily, you know, for seals, for larger fish, and they're mistaking humans for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For those species, so, or dolphins, or so that's it. But boys, if you boys got anything you want to shout out to, you know, if you want a bit of free publicity for your businesses or anything like that, you want to shout out to a couple of mates, or
stay water if you're going to go in the water, and always have a dive buddy.
Absolutely, awesome.
If not, stick to the
I've
water.
dove Jaffa on myself once, and I just think
not again.
I shouldn't have done that. Not on myself in the water, but
yeah, you will be getting back in the water shortly, but
not long. We'll go back in the water.
Nah, legends. Hey, you know, I'm on the same boat. I go on the water regularly. I do a lot of snorkeling. My favourite place to snorkel is like Rapid Bay in Second Valley.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong down there. So for me, it doesn't faze me either. I've seen that many sightings, and it just doesn't change my perception of the ocean at all, you know. So I think it's a great message you guys are spreading. It's healthy. I think that's the attitude we all need to have. So on that note, you boys have got, I'm going to tee up some free merch for you too, a couple of Valise shirts. So leave those details with me.
Yep.
I'll send those through. And great to have you both. And thanks for joining me, and look forward to hearing back from you, hopefully without any bites or limbs missing or anything of that nature. So
thanks for having us.
Appreciate having us on here for the first initial one as well. So
no worries at all. Hey, absolute. That was a cracking first episode of the Sharkcast. So thanks for joining me, and we'll leave it at that.
No worries at all.
Take care, fellas. Take it easy. If you enjoyed that content, if you really like listening to the Sharks Cast, and you want to help out Sharkwatch, you want to support what I'm doing, you want to see this project continue to expand and grow and get to a whole bunch of exciting new levels that allow us to unlock more resources, potentially more technology, more experts to have on this Sharkwatch project, why not become an exclusive crew website member? In doing that, you'll have access to direct text shark alerts to your phone in times where there's a shark sighting that has taken place. You'll have discount on merch. You'll have access to exclusive networking events. That's something that's in the pipeline, where I plan to actually partner up with the local tourism organizations to get all of us out as like a big family on the water, having these awesome networking days where we're chatting to one another, exploring different possibilities when it comes to shark safety out in the water, and also just exploring an immersive experience in our local waterways is going to help our confidence and other people around us, whether we have family and friends that's been affected by the trauma of a shark attack, that just invites a more collaborative experience to overcome these life hurdles and challenges from not having secure mitigation measures in place. That's what Sharkwatch is there for, to provide
awareness for shark safety, and also it's to become a real personal asset to your own journeys out on local waterways. So become an exclusive crew member. The link to the actual website memberships and the plans and pricing is in the follow-up segment of the end of this video here. So stay tuned. I'll also probably put it in the link of this video, so that way you have access to it without excuse. Jump on board and become an exclusive crew Sharkwatch member today. You're going to help grow the Sharkwatch project. We're going to reach new heights, and it's just, God willing, going to be an exciting new way that we can commercialize this project that's going to benefit you, right? And a whole bunch of other water users, coastal, offshore water users. We're just a whole bunch of South Australian water lovers, ocean lovers, marine lovers who love our marine ecosystem and want to dive deeper into these matters and explore new solutions. That's what Sharkwatch is there for. We're that new innovative solution, so jump on board today.